The school year began with a tense labor situation between the province and all four of its teachers' unions. It hasn't gotten better. In fact, next week it might get worse as job actions are planned if progress isn't achieved at the bargaining table. With us now for his government's view on the situation, Stephen Lecce, Minister of Education and the PC MPP for King Vaughan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
It's very nice to have you here because you've had a really busy week. But I'll just get right into it. You were here in September on the first day of school.
Right.
And back then you were optimistic a deal would be reached with all four teachers' unions.
Yes.
But now for the first time in more than 2 decades, all of them are involved in job action. How did things get to this point?
Well, I must admit, I knew that there then, as it is today, a pathway to getting deals, and the process to get that can be bumpy. And I think that cyclical challenge that every government of all political stripes face, any former Minister of Education will tell you, it probably won't happen the first month or two. It will take some time. But having said that, we have delivered 2 deals to date. Just in December, I announced the tentative agreement with the Education Workers Alliance, which is important, a smaller union, to be fair, but notwithstanding, it still provides stability. And of course, CUPE earlier in the fall, we announced that deal, which helped to avert a province-wide strike. So we have got deals to date. My aim over the coming days and weeks is to get more deals, to provide more predictability. I appreciate for parents at home that they're observing this and they see the political discourse and the escalation of words and all this, but at the end of the day, if you could attempt to decouple that experience, what's happening in the media, with the opportunities to get deals at the table, I still believe, and I mean this, that there is a pathway to get deals with our education workers. And I appreciate for many parents and students in Ontario, and I would argue even for the workers themselves, they want this to happen yesterday because they're in the middle of this. And I think parents are frustrated by the omnipresent reality of these strikes that really are impacting kids.
Well, I should have said at the very beginning is that for transparency, TVO is under your ministry. So it might make it a bit awkward, some of the questions I'm about to ask you, but I have to ask them for the people in Ontario. I'm also a parent, so my children have been affected with what's been happening. So we've had rotating strikes, withdrawal of services, job actions are ramping up. What's the status in talks with these unions?
Yeah, so this week, we were before AFO, the French Teachers Union. We have met with the other teachers unions in the month of December, and we've indicated to the mediators for all these tables that we stand ready and willing to continue bargaining to provide predictability for families in this province. I understand full well, having nieces in the system and knowing so many of my closest friends and caucus colleagues and constituents who've told me that there is a cost to this strike. There's a
what would you say that cost is?
Well, I would argue the human cost. I mean, no doubt there's a productivity loss, I suppose, for the economy, but I mean on a human level, for parents, for yourself, for others who have their lives upended, who have to find childcare on usually short notice, and the stress that this is imposing on all the players, all the people involved, including our kids. And so I appreciate that. I recognize that it is the single greatest priority of any Minister of Education to provide predictability. However, I also accept that it isn't just in the government's court. We are negotiating with other parties, 2 other parties, principally with teachers' unions who have, declared their positions and entrenched some of their positions. And so my message to them over the past weeks is really one of hope that we can all make some moves in our negotiating position to get to a deal, to provide that predictability and to avert those one-day strikes that are starting to add up.
But in order to negotiate, both parties have to be present. All parties have to be present.
Indeed.
And Sam Hammond, the president of the union representing elementary teachers, said this week that, quote, there is no communication with this government. What's the reason for this apparent standstill in discussions?
Yeah, I mean, the mediator who's the decision, he or she, depending on the table, makes the decision point of when to bring the parties back for discussion.
If not to interrupt you, but if parents hear that or people hear that it's a matter of scheduling, they might get a bit frustrated with that.
Yeah.
Are you saying it's scheduling that's causing the delays?
The mediator, the Ministry of Labour mediator, is the individual that would make the decision to bring the parties together.
Okay.
The Government of Ontario, the Crown, myself, has indicated through the mediator that we stand ready any day to bargain and to get a deal. I've urged the teachers' unions to build on the concept of frustration for so many people in this province. I have urged the unions to consider private mediation, which is what we did with CUPE. With CUPE, we had a Ministry of Labour mediator. It didn't drive an outcome, regrettably. We then turned to a private mediation, and it did. And when I've made that request many months ago, it fell on deaf ears, and then it came with preconditions. So my hope is in 2020, a new year, we can recalculate that we really should be invoking every tool in the toolbox to provide stability for families. Because I think what frustrates parents the most is that if you have a high school parent, if you have a high school student rather, you may recall that when they were in elementary school, they also faced the cyclical escalation of teachers' unions in
But
2015.
to be fair, this happens because of the contracts being negotiated every 3 to 4 years, right?
Well, the contracts are every 3 or 4 years historically, but the decision point to escalate against every government across the political spectrum, it rests singularly and exclusively with the teachers' unions who did it against Bob Rae, Mike Harris, of course, as you noted, Kathleen Wynne, Dalton McGuinty, the education premier, quote unquote, and now Doug Ford. So I think that there's not much in common, respectfully, with Premier Rae and Premier Ford, but the one common denominator is that there's an escalation. And I think what that shows is that it's not necessarily government policy, it's just the approach that the unions will take to the government of the day. My aim is to avoid further escalation by invoking private mediation and sitting back at the table through our mediator and getting a deal that provides enduring continuity so kids can be in class.
Well, to be fair, because no one from the unions is here, I think they would have a different version of what you just said. But this week, your ministry announced that it will offer some compensation to parents affected by the strikes, ranging between $25 and $60.
Right.
How and when will the parents receive this money?
Yeah, and just for context, just on the earlier point, in 2015, a very contemporary example, there were local strikes in Durham and Peel, if I recall, legal strikes, in fact, in some cases, under Kathleen Wynne. So these things do happen fairly common. But to the point, we did launch an initiative. The province of Ontario, when there's a full withdrawal of services from the unions, the withdrawal of that service means that the government is not paying them. There's $60 million saved, quote unquote, per day when that service is withdrawn. And we're reallocating a critical mass of that, about $48 million, back to the people of Ontario through an initiative called Support for Parents. The Support for Parents initiative is easy. It's predicated on a belief that you, as a mom, and your partner and your family should not be financially on the hook because of the teacher union escalation. I really do believe that the greatest casualty of this disagreement are kids and their parents. And so that's why we made the decision point to return those funding or allocate those monies. You sign up online, ontario.ca/support for parents. That initiative will put monies in your pocket through direct deposit. You could apply online, also through your MPP's office. Any party could download the document, as well as through your Board of Education. You sign up, you need your child's name, full name, school, date of birth, and school board, and then some financial information. And what happens is it will be a verification process, could take about 10 to 14 days. And then thereafter, the money seamlessly will flow into your account direct. You never have to reapply. If there's another one-day strike in 2 weeks from now, it happens automatically, and it's back, and it's done through our systems. And so we're trying to make it as easy as possible on parents.
Money on one hand is one thing, but as you know, there is a daycare crisis in the province of Ontario. So what is the point of having the money if you can't find a space for your child? Right. When my kids were in full daycare, I was on a waiting list for 1 year, and then when they started school, I was on another waiting list for 6 months for before and after school care. So why did you choose to pursue this path rather than putting that money that you said you saved into childcare or special needs education? Yeah, no, and I think your story is a shared story. I've met so many people in this province who can find accessible or let alone affordable childcare. It's a real issue in urban and rural settings across Ontario. It actually makes the point, in some respects, that these strikes exacerbate an existing phenomena that is hurting so many people that they can't find it on a good day, let alone with 5 days' notice. So, but you're in charge of the ministry, right? So you
Indeed.
can decide what happens, right?
Oh, of course. I'm just simply saying that this issue, I think, for me, it only underscores how these strikes are impacting families, because that problem existed before a strike, and it only is exacerbated when everyone is looking for a childcare space in the same day. But you're right, childcare is a priority. When we came to power, we inherited the most expensive childcare in the nation under the former Liberals. We know we have to do more. We created a care tax credit, a child tax credit, up to 75% of your childcare expenses are now could be used as a tax deduction to save money and put north of $1,200 per family.
Which
in
is
their
great,
pockets.
but it doesn't address what's happening now, right?
It is. It is on the broader principle about what we can do on childcare as the minister responsible for childcare. There's something we can do. We are doing it through tax. We're also providing this incentive. Now, with respect to access to safe spaces to put your child under the event of a strike, yes, childcare is absolutely difficult to find, and that's the reality we've inherited. Although we're on track to build over 30,000 childcare spaces in this province. What I will say is I've also, through the announcement I made just a few days ago, essentially revised a regulation, liberalized a regulation that allows for more day camps to open up. Right now, there's a 14-week rule on day camps. For example, the YMCA or the ROM or the City of Toronto or the City of Vaughan. Some of them have stepped forward saying we're going to put on these day camps. They're usually at a much more affordable rate for families. They're regulated, they're safe. But they had some regulations. So I opened up those regulations to permit more nonprofits and municipalities to open up these centers to help with families. And so far, to be fair, we're seeing a really positive response from many organizations, and we're grateful to them. And I know parents are as well. We're working.
But why choose this path rather than putting the money into special needs education, putting it back into the system instead of giving it to the parents?
Well, it comes down to a fundamental belief that we can do both. We can concurrently invest more in vulnerable segments of our community of young people with special education needs, while also accepting the premise that a parent should not be financially on the hook because a teacher union decide to escalate and withdraw service to a child. I really do believe philosophically as a progressive conservative that monies are best returned to individuals to make decisions for their children. In the absence of that support, that would mean that a person...
But it's happened really fast, right? If people had time to prepare, maybe that's a different situation. That's another debate for another day.
Yeah, I mean, these escalations are happening and you're getting, a couple days notice, 5 days notice. It's not a lot. And so the rationale for me expanding that regulation was to provide more choice and to expand the tax benefit, or rather the support for parents initiative is to support financially support families. So to provide access, but also affordability, that's my commitment. And to be fair, I think any minister of any government should be concerned about the economic impacts of these strikes on families. And I think in the absence of that, I would argue it's a bit of a dereliction of responsibility, because how could I in good faith negotiate and try my darnest to get a deal while knowing that there are many vulnerable people within our community amongst us, low-income single-parent families who don't have the flexibility or the vacation days or the money to afford it.
ETFO President Sam Hammond says that you giving the money to the parents, he's called it a bribe. What's your response to that?
I'm not sure that language is particularly constructive. I think returning monies to the people of Ontario, to working parents, low-income families, is absolutely appropriate. I really do believe in my heart, philosophically, that this is the right thing to do, given that, that union, among others, has opted to impose strikes on innocent children and their parents. And I want to be part of the solution. I want to help get a deal at a more macro level, but at a micro level, I also want to help provide some financial relief to these folks. They don't deserve to be on the hook financially for this. And so if the government could assist us, put a few bucks in their pockets, I think that's prudent.
I think the unions would probably say they want the same thing as you do. But yesterday, Premier Ford reiterated that the government won't offer teachers more than a 1% yearly increase, half of what teachers are asking for. How much of this dispute comes down to compensation?
Yeah, I mean, I really believe it is a fundamental issue at the table, and I understand that will be perhaps disputed by the unions. I've heard that, seen this story before under successive governments where they argue it's not. But fundamentally, I just want to be clear when it comes to my support for educators. I mean, I understand it's a heightened period of rhetoric, but I value what they do. These are for people who overwhelmingly go into the sector because it's a vocation. They love children, they're committed to learning, and they want to make a difference from a pedagogical perspective to inspire young people to learn and to consider advanced education and get jobs. I totally appreciate what they do. We pay them well. In this province, we are the second highest paid compensated educator in the nation.
Behind Alberta?
That's correct. And and for OSSTF, which is the high school teachers union, which is the one that has escalated rather rapidly to date, their average income of those teachers is $92,000. $92,000. So my point in short is just that we pay them well, we compensate them well. We're offering a $750 million increase, 1% as you noted. They're signaling to us that they want more cost of living, or 2%, roughly $1.5 billion sector-wide. And my point is, if I'm going to invest incremental dollars or supplemental dollars into the system, I would rather, and I believe it is my role, foundationally, my role, to put more money in class, not in compensation. That's the choice.
Let's talk about compensation for a second, because OSSTF says, you said 90, OSSTF says the average actual annual salary for teachers is about 86,000. And then when you talk about education workers who sometimes have to work, with kids with physical challenges, they make an average of about 38,000 annually. What do you say to that?
Well, I think the Ministry of Education data point is clear. The average income for an OSSTF teacher is 92,000. They are compensated well. We value their work, but at the same time, I just don't believe that I should be acquiescing to a request to put an additional $750 million of tax dollars in.
Even if cost of living has gone up, and even if other, say like the OPP has also gotten a 2%, over a 2% increase.
And those are different systems. I mean, that's an arbitration system that makes those decision points. The government makes these decisions. And look, I mean, we've been clear. For the public service, we're offering 1%. Under Premier McGuinty, at one point he offered 0%. I mean, I think we're being reasonable given where we're coming from in the context of compensation. If our educators were paid disproportionately lower, that argument probably would be more compelling. But when you're making about 92 grand on average, I think a $750 million increase is fair. Education workers, we value them. We got 2 agreements to date with them. As you will recall, in the fall, we got an agreement with CUPE, and that averted a strike. And CUPE accepted the 1%. The Education Workers Alliance accepted the 1%. And so the question is, why is it okay for those education workers, but within OSSTF that has an education workers union within them, as you mentioned, why is it that those members rejected it, that union rejected it?
So do you say, let's just say that they decide to take the 1% increase and say, that's fine. What about everything else on the table?
Right.
Would that clear up things for your government to move forward?
I think we've indicated that we want the unions to be a bit reasonable on the other issues, because I've made some pretty significant moves. As you will recall, online learning, there was a mandate of 4 courses. I moved that to 2, cut that in half. On the classroom sizes, the provincialized average was targeted at 28. I moved that to 25. I've said all along, I want to be, and I remain open to innovative options to see classroom size numbers come down. I believe we can get there as long as there are offsets and innovative ways to achieve that.
This past week, the Toronto Star obtained a confidential government document suggesting that your ministry was considering selling online learning courses to other jurisdictions and allowing students to get high school diplomas entirely online starting in 2024. TVO does offer online learning. Is that the future of secondary education in Ontario, and if so, why?
Well, to be fair, that consideration, what was before Cabinet, before my arrival, was not a decision that was made. So that was a proposal, I suppose, that the public service would have developed, but it wasn't a decision the government made. The memo was publicized online, so I'm not sure it's as secretive as has been reported. But the point is, what we've signaled to our partners in education is that we want them to give us feedback about the way forward. When it comes to online learning, I think one of the greatest vulnerabilities affecting the next generation of students and workers and entrepreneurs and innovators in the province is the lack of transferable skills in our education system.
But if you're learning online, we talk about soft skills like teamwork and collaboration. Can you develop those online?
Well, the fact that the critical mass, the overwhelming majority of courses are in school, I think would help strengthen that. But technological fluency is a foundational skill set that also needs to be harnessed in today's disruptive economy and the trajectory of where the market is going. Job creators and nonprofit leaders are telling me that's a competency they want strengthened. So we think the fact that there's a 17% increase in uptake in online learning every year since 2011, the fact that we're creating gold standard courses, I mean truly high quality courses that will inspire young people to learn. And we have broadband connectivity at every high school, high-speed internet by the start date of September 2020. I actually believe this could be a positive initiative led by Ontario teachers and also an infrastructure that is built in this province.
There's been many comparisons that have been drawn between the current situation with the teachers' unions and the last big strike in 1997. I was like a preteen, so you were probably a lot younger, maybe like 10.
I was in school.
You were in school. What do you remember of that strike?
I remember the impacts on kids. I remember, many students in the province just feeling like we were sort of a pond in the middle of this ongoing battle between the entities. And that's why I feel so motivated and compelled today to help build an education system that invests more in the front lines, that defends the interests of our students, that focus on competencies that can help these young people graduate and get access to good jobs, but also is being a reasonable force at the table. That's why that's why my negotiating team is working hard to provide stability in the sector. So I'm trying to avert that experience that, not to be fair, sure, 1997, but many students thereafter and before would have experienced under all governments over the course of my entire life. And so it's high time for teacher unions to accept that on young people in this province, on vulnerable segments of our population, on low-income parents, that these strikes are hurting kids, and I'm urging parents to take up our offer for support for parents, take up that initiative, utilize those funds to help them over the coming days, and know that the minister, the government, every member of my team is working around the clock to provide stability for families and for teachers.
Let's fast forward to year 4 of this government's mandate for your ministry. What do you want to accomplish?
I want to make sure that young people, when they graduate, that there's a greater alignment of labor market needs with the competencies and the curriculum that young people are learning. I think there's a mismatch. We have an unusual paradox in this province and this country of jobs without people, people without jobs. I mean, education is more than just employment, but it's about readying the next generation for life, to have those soft skills of collaboration, of debate, but also to be able to get a job. And for too many young people, in a province and this country as prosperous as Canada, how is it that we have twice the youth unemployment rate in this nation? We have to do something to unlock the potential of our young people. And my mission over the coming years, working with the Premier and our entire team, is to embrace the strengths of the market, focus our curriculum on labor market needs, give pathways, credible pathways to young people to see themselves in jobs, and ultimately help inspire young people to consider higher learning, be it in colleges, in universities, and certainly in skilled trades where we have an acute shortage in this province.
I wish we had more time because we have a lot more to talk about, but hopefully you'll come back.
I will.
That was Stephen Lecce, the Ontario Education Minister and MPP for King Vaughan. Thank you very much for making time for us.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.